Yeah, it's great. It's great to know that you're the youngest. Your name is gonna be in the book records.
Alex Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries.
That moment right there, that celebration, that recognition, that was allegedly the exact moment a production team at one of America's biggest networks was already planning to weaponize. Because while that host was telling Alex Eala she was the youngest player with her name going into the record books, producers at ABC's The View were allegedly sitting in a production meeting with a very different plan for her. A plan she knew nothing about, a plan that had already been written down, discussed, and refined behind closed doors. A plan that, if it had gone forward, would have played out on live national television in front of millions of people watching at home. That was the trap, but before we get into what was allegedly written in that script, you need to understand who Alex Eala actually is, because that context changes everything about why what happened next hit the tennis world the way it did. At just 20 years old, Alex Eala is not simply a tennis player. She is the living proof of what is possible. Over 100 million people in the Philippines watch her every single match like it personally belongs to them, because in many ways it does. She won her first WTA title in Guadalajara and sent an entire nation into genuine, uncontrolled celebration. She brought home gold at the SEA Games, representing her country with the kind of intensity and pride that makes people stop what they are doing and pay attention. She staged stunning comebacks in Abu Dhabi that left crowds genuinely stunned and on their feet. She signed with Nike, stepping into the same commercial space as the sport's most recognizable global names. And through every single one of those moments, every trophy, every title, every step forward on the court, she has remained, by every account from every person who has ever shared a practice court or a locker room with her, completely and genuinely humble. Not performed humility, not media-trained humility, real humility, the kind that you simply cannot fake over years of close contact with players and coaches and people who would notice immediately if it was not authentic. That is who was sitting across from that host in that clip. That is who was allegedly being lined up for a scripted ambush. So when reports began to emerge about what was allegedly being planned for her inside that production room, the tennis world did not just react. It erupted. According to insider reports, producers at The View were quietly building a segment that looked, from the outside, like a warm and celebratory sit-down with a rising young star. Alex would come in, sit down, smile for the cameras, and answer some questions. A standard television appearance, nothing that would raise any concern from anyone, except the questions being prepared behind closed doors were allegedly anything but standard. The plan, as sources described it to reporters, was to use the interview as a setup. A scripted ambush, carefully designed to corner her, to introduce controversy she had no way of preparing for, to catch her off guard on camera in a way that would make her look rattled or unprepared on national television. Not because she had done anything wrong. Not because there was a legitimate story worth investigating or a genuine public interest issue at stake, but because a young, globally recognized, universally respected athlete visibly struggling under the pressure of a live surprise confrontation makes for explosive content. It gets shared, it gets clipped, it gets talked about, it moves the kind of numbers that get discussed in Monday morning production meetings. That was the alleged calculation. She was useful, use her, embarrass her on the platform they controlled. Then move on to the next story. She had no idea it was coming, and then someone talked. Word moved through the tennis world the way everything moves through the tennis world, fast and quietly, through the dense network of agents and coaches and players who have spent their entire professional lives at the same tournaments, on the same practice courts, eating in the same restaurants after long match days, sitting in the same courtesy cars between venues. In professional tennis, there are no real strangers. It is a genuinely small world with very long memories. And when one player gets targeted, when something happens that feels fundamentally wrong, the circuit finds out. Everyone finds out. And when the circuit found out, the first person to make a move was someone who has never once in his entire career walked away from a fight he believed was right, Novak Djokovic. Djokovic is not a man who takes symbolic stands. He is a 24-time Grand Slam champion who has operated his entire career by a personal code that has never bent for anyone, not governing bodies, not tournament organizers, not the pressure of public opinion at moments when standing firm was deeply uncomfortable. As the founder of the Professional Tennis Players Association, he spent years fighting for players who had no real collective voice, pushing back against the power structures of professional tennis, demanding fair pay, demanding proper treatment, demanding that the people who actually generate the sport's entire value be treated accordingly. He has challenged the system publicly, repeatedly, and without apology. He has never done any of it for press. When news of the alleged ambush script reached Djokovic's team, the response was immediate and firm, no careful deliberation. No managed press statement, no quiet back-channel conversation to try to contain the situation before it grew. Just one decision, total, final, and completely non-negotiable. If a network does not respect Alex Eala, it does not respect tennis. And if it does not respect tennis, it does not deserve access to its players. Think about what that actually means. No interviews, no post-match sit-downs. No behind-the-scenes access. No exclusive footage, every door shut completely. Every request, no matter how it was framed or who sent it, met with the same answer. We stand with Alex Eala. For a television network that depends entirely on athlete access to stay relevant to its audience, that is not an inconvenience. That is a structural catastrophe with no obvious way out. But one man alone was never going to make ABC feel the full weight of what was coming, making them genuinely feel it required someone else stepping in, someone younger. Someone who reaches a completely different audience with a completely different kind of cultural power. Someone whose name carries weight not in boardrooms, but on the phones of millions of young fans around the world who follow his every move. Carlos Alcaraz did not call a press conference. He did not release a carefully worded multi-paragraph statement. He opened his phone, posted a single image, an empty tennis court bathed in the soft, fading light of a setting sun, and wrote 7 words underneath it. Integrity isn't for sale, we stand with Alex. 7 words, and the internet broke open. The hashtag Stand with Eala started trending almost immediately. Players, fans, journalists, and commentators all responded within hours. What had been moving through the tennis world quietly and in private became a fully public moment with real and growing momentum behind it, and once Alcaraz made his position clearly visible, others began to move. Quietly at first. Then in larger numbers, agents began calling clients. Instructions went out across the tour, decline all requests from the network, every request, no exceptions. The boycott stopped being a statement, it became a wall. And you need to understand what losing both of these men simultaneously actually means to a network like ABC. Losing Djokovic means losing the greatest tennis player who ever lived. His presence on any platform is immediate and undeniable legitimacy, history, prestige, and the living story of a human being who achieved things on a tennis court that no one before him had ever achieved. Losing that access doesn't just hurt ratings on a given weekend. It strips away the network's credibility to cover the sport at all. You cannot seriously claim to cover professional tennis while the greatest player alive has publicly decided you do not deserve to be in the room. But losing Alcaraz hits from a completely different direction. He doesn't bring history, he brings the future. He brings the fans who are 15 years old right now and would rather watch him than almost anything else on any platform. He brings viral moments, social media energy, and the conversation about where tennis is going. Lose him and you don't just lose an interview, you lose a generation. Losing both at the same time, over the same issue, is not a bad news cycle that fades in a week. It is a compounding crisis with no clean exit and nowhere safe to stand while it runs. Sources close to the situation say the network has been left genuinely scrambling, and every hour that passes without a real response makes the position harder to recover from. Now picture being an ABC executive right now. Your phone is ringing, your team is reaching out to players, to agents, to managers, to anyone who might open a single door, and every single answer coming back is the same one word. No, we stand with Alex Eala. Every hour the boycott holds, the window to resolve this quietly gets smaller. Every day without real accountability, the damage deepens and spreads. Sources in the professional tennis world confirm that other top 10 players, men and women both, are now instructing their agents to decline all contact from the network. Female champions who have spent entire careers navigating exactly this kind of unfair treatment are standing alongside male stars in what commentators are already describing as something genuinely historic, not just for tennis, but for professional sport as a whole. And this has completely stopped being just a tennis story. Athletes in basketball, football, golf, and soccer are watching this closely, because what Djokovic and Alcaraz have done is something players across every major sport have quietly wanted to see for a long time. A clear line drawn without apology, an unambiguous standard set and held without compromise. You treat professional athletes with basic respect or you lose the ability to cover them, full stop, no gray area. No negotiation after the damage is already done. The demands from their camp are not complicated. They never were. A full, public, on-air apology to Alex Eala, delivered with the same prominence and reach that was allegedly being prepared for the ambush. Visible, unambiguous. On the exact same platform where the attack was planned to happen, and real, public accountability for the producers who allegedly drafted that script, not a quiet internal review. Something the entire audience can see and evaluate for themselves. Until both of those things happen, there are no deals, no side conversations, no compromise. The boycott is total and the position is not moving by a single inch. The US Open is approaching. Networks pay enormous sums to cover it. Millions of people around the world will watch. And right now, ABC and its partners are staring at the real possibility of being completely frozen out. No post-match access, no player interviews, no behind-the-scenes content, no moments that make covering one of the biggest sporting events in the world worth anything at all. Every request met with the same firm and unwavering answer. We stand with Alex Eala. Sports media is already calling this a turning point, a genuine shift in the power dynamic between professional athletes and the platforms that depend on them. And at the center of it are two men who had absolutely nothing personal to gain from stepping in the way they did. Djokovic has won every trophy there is to win in this sport. He could do safe, comfortable press for the rest of his career and nobody would fault him. He chose not to. Alcaraz could be building his brand, maximizing his endorsements, staying in every major network's good graces as his star continues to rise. He chose to post that image and those 7 words instead. Both of them chose something considerably harder than comfort. They chose to stand up for a young woman who had never once asked them to. Alex Eala did not make a public statement. She did not call in favors or run a campaign or navigate the politics of sports media to protect herself. Her work spoke for her. Her character spoke for her. The genuine relationships she had built across years of practice courts and tournaments and long days traveling the circuit spoke loudly enough that legends of the sport moved for her without waiting to be asked, without needing any convincing, without any arrangement being made. She never asked anyone for any of this. That is the most powerful thing about this entire story. A production team allegedly looked at her and calculated she was a useful tool, temporary, disposable, good for one morning of viral content, and then easily forgotten. Instead, they revealed to the entire world exactly who she is. They showed what she has built, and they showed what the tennis community is genuinely willing to do when one of its own is targeted. She walks out of this controversy stronger, more visible, and more protected than she was before any of it started. The people who allegedly planned to diminish her handed her something no endorsement deal and no PR campaign could ever have manufactured. They handed her proof. The ball is in ABC's court, the clock is running. Every fan, every player, every sports journalist following this story is watching to see what the network does next. The terms have not changed. A full public apology. Real accountability. Those are the only 2 things that bring this to an end. Until they happen, the answer stays exactly the same. The tennis world stands with Alex Eala, and it is not moving, so tell us what you think. Will ABC step up and do the right thing, or try to wait this out and hope the moment eventually fades? Could this boycott become a real blueprint for athletes in every sport who are done being treated as content? And are you standing with Alex Eala? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Every single voice adds to this. And if this story landed the way it should have, hit that like button and make sure every tennis fan who needs to see it actually gets to see it.